Beautiful souls, welcome. I hope you guys are having an amazing week. Thank you so much for joining me. It is such a joy to be here with you. Okay, I think we are live. Let me just make sure that we are about that process live, and I'm going to share stream. Here we are. Hey. Okay, fantastic. So we are live. Thank you so much for joining us on YouTube and here on the Zoom. It's such a joy to be here with you guys, as always. I hope you guys had a wonderful holiday. If you guys celebrate Halloween and dress up, I hope you guys had fun. All right, so let us get started. We'll talk about a couple things. I've had some really great questions this week, and I'd love to address them. So let me find those really quickly. And yeah, we had a couple questions about the integration process. Jason Adam asks, "Hi Geraldine, I just wanted to thank you again for your weekly meditations and sessions. Thank you so much, Jason. I have a question regarding the DNA alchemization to our ancestral lineage. You mentioned in several of your sessions that we can change the pattern of ancestral lineage suffering during our meditation, so that may avoid learning through suffering. But isn't this going against the free will of our ancestors and our children? I assumed we are only allowed to change and alchemize our own pattern of learning through suffering in accordance with universal law." So he's asking to please elaborate. Thank you so much. Important question. I've actually had this question a couple times this week. So I think a lot of you are kind of addressing maybe ancestral healing, and this is a really great time to dive into that topic. I think the primary thing to understand when we're working with ancestral lineages is that we want to work on a really deep level. You see, the thing is that we are one. We are one. And so that is something that is hard to understand, but I'm going to show you an image that I see within the field of every single human when we start working in the ancestral lineage aspect of our deep work. And that is primarily that we are a field. We're a field of consciousness. So I know you guys see yourself as your physical body, but the invitation is that you begin to see yourself as a field of energy. When you begin to see yourself as this field of energy, even your physical body, as you're working to uncover your vision, your ability, your intuitive capacities to see the layers of your multidimensionality, you will be able to kind of understand more clearly how energy is moving through your body, how these thought forms are expressing themselves, and how they are triggered. And what I have seen, there's a couple of things that I'm going to share with you, because this has a lot to do with cultivating angelic wings. And so we actually, a lot of us hold the templates of angelic beings within our body. And we actually develop wings. We actually cultivate wings that essentially expand, but not wings in the term like, you're going to fly with them necessarily in the traditional term. Essentially, when you begin to feel that you have wings in your body, it's the entire toroidal energy system illuminating and coming online. And of course, you can navigate with that toroidal system because it's the creation and the cultivation of the Merkaba, which is it's a vehicle. It's a vehicle of traveling, you can say. It's a vehicle of moving within dimensions, many dimensions. And so our bodies become a vehicle of navigation because we are learning how to move interdimensionally with the body. And so this is something that comes as a result of doing really deep ancestral work, because you reconnect your awareness with the wholeness of everything that you are. You reconnect your awareness beyond just, first what's in the physical, which is like basically level 0. You're in 0, not 0 point, don't confuse, just saying like the access levels of consciousness, you're externalized. Okay, so when you're externalized, you have no access, no ability to work with your energy body. You're not really tapped into working with your energy system. But when you begin to enter level 1, let's say you're meditating, practicing awareness, bringing your attention more to your body. Level 3, you're beginning to tap into your 5 senses, and with your 5 senses, beginning to work with the information that is there in your body, transmuting that, cleaning that up, alchemizing. Level 4, you're beginning now to extend into the layers of the memory field, which is the bioelectrical system of the morphogenetic body. And essentially, this is exactly where we find all of this, all these memory systems of everything that we are, which is in the field, your field. Okay. And so we carry that with us all the time. You're never separate from it. Your entire multidimensional body is your reality. It is the reality that you're living, that you're experiencing, that you're co-creating. You might think that your reality is what is occurring outside, but actually it's everything that you're processing within this morphogenetic field that makes up your reality. And the reason why that's super important is because if you don't realize that, you're going to sever yourself from that understanding, and that is basically levels of consciousness, which I'll show you in just a minute. But essentially, these levels of awareness are available to us. So let me show you something, a graph that I'm sure some of you have seen before. I talked about it before. But this is essentially looking at what our multidimensional, our morphogenetic field actually looks like. When we look at the morphogenetic field, this is what you look like. You are holding, let me explain more thoroughly what this is. Okay, so think for a moment your physical body being here at the center. Okay, so this is your physical body. Every color that you see here on the graph is a vibrational frequency. And by vibrational frequency, I'm talking about, you can call it a point of trauma, or a point in which the energy or the body disassociated with itself in some way that creates fragmentation. Okay, so whenever we create fragmentation in the body, it creates a point, an energetic point of reference in your morphogenetic field. And so trauma, anytime that you don't know how to respond to something. So you're in an environment of vibrational frequency, someone is, enacting something to trigger something in you, and the trigger that is not processed through the body properly, which is made up of emotions, biochemical reactions, your biofield either contracted or expanded. All of that matters, and all of that is recorded in every single life experience that you have. So when the energy and the frequency of that is completely mismatched with the resonance that you're holding in your body, it creates a split in your energetic field, which is usually a lower vibrational frequency. Okay, so like you let's say that you have a very traumatic experience, you felt terror for a moment, and your terror, you feel lost, you feel confused, your vibrational frequency dropped really, really, really low. Okay, so that vibrational wavelength that you're having, it's not in resonance with your whole life experience, it's not in resonance with what happens after that. And so it can be a very deep low dip in the frequency. Imagine that you're made up of waves of frequencies, and the moment that those become super slow and stagnant, and when they begin to create neural pathways, in the same way, we are reinforcing those low vibrational emanations of frequency. Okay, so those emotions and create an emanation of a vibrational frequency, and they disconnect from the body. Okay, because essentially what happens is that moment is that usually you check out from your body, and the checking out from the body is what creates that split. Okay, because you see you're completely interconnected in your body. And so the power of the human experiencer is that the human is fully embodied every moment. That's how we really learn how to master awareness, co-creation. Okay, you can really only co-create when you're fully in your body and you're fully engaged in the creation process. So in trauma, of course, and trauma can be anything. It can be a funny look from a person in a counter at a store, a funny look from mom, confused, upset, or whatever it might be. And in that little split moment where you didn't know how to respond or how to react to that, your frequency may have dropped completely. And that right there creates that disconnect. So we are basically accumulate these little points of reference in our field. They never disappear. They never just disappear. They are always in your energy body. And so usually a human will sustain a certain vibrational signature. And the vibrational signature is usually the color of the themes, the major themes that make up the life of someone. Okay, so your vibrational signature, if your entire life, even though you have a happy face and you have like everything that you think you want in your life, but underneath the subconscious is this doubt or this like stress or this anxiety or this fear, inability to enjoy, or these under very deep lying emotions that we have that are actually at the foundation of who we are. They feed into the forming of our personality. They feed into how we hold our energy, how we engage and have relationships with others. So all of these they make up, because we reinforce that belief system over and over again, your signature. So that signature is extremely important, because that signature is your vibrational resonance. And everything that you're experiencing from that moment forward is going to be a match to that signature. Okay. So that being said, when we're talking about all of these experiences that we share with others, now let's take it, now that you understand that basic structure, when we expand it out to the people that cause these triggers in us, we are entangled with them deeply, because in that moment when the vibrational frequency drops, we become a match to this resonance. And usually what ends up happening when you dive deep, and in my practice and my work with DNA reprogramming every day, what we're discovering and what is known is that we essentially take on the vibrational resonance of the abuser or the person that triggered that in us. And so that's why awareness is so important, because as children, of course, we're very impressionable. We don't know. We're just learning, and we look up to our parents to demonstrate that and to provide safety. We have all these expectations as children, these ideas that we should have a certain environment that is taught to us. And so we take on all of what is being shown to us. And so you become the parent that is doing that to you, essentially, in terms of vibrational language, right? So the exact same resonance that the parent is putting out, let's say that they rejected us as a result of deep insecurity. They thought that they would fail as a parent, or they wouldn't be so good at loving you, or they were afraid of rejection, so they'd rather just reject you. And so what happens is you develop that rejection towards others. Okay. So in the alchemical process, what we would need to heal would be essentially that. Okay. That core belief system that you took on and that has literally imprinted on you as part of your survival kit as a human. So when we talk about the alchemy of this, what happens with that in the etheric body, when you're working on this in your etheric body, how you're going to alchemize that is by going back to that memory point, that because you see, these memory points, they exist in your body. You can't ignore them. And they very subtly influence your decisions. And you might not even realize. The other day, I had a client that was, always very happy, seemingly smiling and happy all the time. But when we started going into the happy emotion, underneath that happiness, she finds a sadness. And the sadness takes her back to a childhood memory where her parents were always kind of sad. They were never happy. And so now she's created an entire personality in order to support this illusion of happiness, this false sense of joy, in order to suppress the pain from not having that as a natural expression as a child. So in the alchemical realm, what happens is that the transmutation of that would be for us to actually truly embody the joy. And that would rewire differently. Okay, it would rewire differently because the neural pathways that you are reinforcing through the sad emotions and then the fake emotions as well, all of those are rooted in the same vibrational frequency. They keep going back to that memory point as a child in your energetic field. And so this is why a lot of people find it difficult to change. They keep repeating the same pattern. They keep meeting the same husband, wife that keeps repeating these ideas, boyfriend, girlfriends. They have these conflicts with their children as they're growing up. So they're very deeply seated and they're very relevant to us. If we would understand how to alchemize this at the core root, we would change everything moving forward energetically. Okay, so let's talk about the entanglement part, because in order for you to alchemize that, you need to put yourself into the shoes of the other to understand. Why? Because as a child, you checked out of your body. Most of the time, you suppress the emotions that you're feeling. You really don't want to feel. They're very strong, powerful emotions that you don't know how to process. You didn't know how to process at that time. And so we need to teach the body to process. So we kind of have this blocked energy. And so when we teach you to process the energy, you release that block and now you can move forward. And that changes and restructures your whole energy body. So in the entanglement form, these memories that we have here, let's say that this little memory, this little black dot over here is a trauma with a parent. You would need to put yourselves and shift your perception, broaden your perception of that, of the victim role, of the part. And when I say victim role, I don't mean that as a trigger point. Think of it as when you don't know how to respond or how to process an emotion. The moment you begin to return back to the body to feel that emotion, that's when you can begin to expand your range of emotional awareness. And putting yourself in the shoes of the other will help you understand where they come from. You might realize in that moment that that parent is deeply insecure, so insecure that they love you so much, but they just can't show you or they can't give you that affection. They're deeply afraid of affection. Why? Because the parent didn't give them affection. So they had no modeling of that. They have no understanding of that emotion. So all of us are kind of learning. We're all new in a sense to the physical body. We're all learning how to process emotions, how to integrate that. But the moment that you shift your perception and to understand that, you begin to literally, energetically, the cords that bind you in the heaviness of that emotion that was shared, that traumatic moment, they begin to shift and they begin to become higher. So this is really, I just saw an article about how we can change particles of the past, a very interesting article. And it's very relevant because when I think of what happens in the quantum field in our energetic body, when we're shifting energetic points in these previous memories of the past, these are 20, 30 years ago, when you were a child perhaps, and you can literally change diseases, you can change your body, you can change how you see, how you hold energy. A lot of things change in the body when you alchemize these emotions. That's one thing. Okay. Two, when you begin to work with that memory, because we are one, it also causes a shift in the field with that individual. And what I've experienced and tested time and time and time again, that individual in that moment when you're doing that work will become aware of the loosening of that energetic point, which will bring an awareness to them. But I always say this part with a lot of caution because a lot of people get caught up on that and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make them see what happened, what they did to me, and I want them to feel it. And that's not how that works because every human has free will, as Jason Adam was, mentioning in his comment, how how is it that we can heal others if we are all having free will? How do we not interfere in that? So this, as you develop your intuition, you will begin to notice how people are shifting in their own internal world, but that has nothing to do with you, because we have to let them get to that information when they're ready, when they want to, when they're ready to process it, as you know, because there's no shortcuts. Any miss in an understanding of vibrational frequency, we have to feel into these moments, because there's ranges of emotions that have happened to us, and the real cultivation of alchemy in the body, and also conductivity in the body, requires you to master all ranges of emotions. That's why the alchemical transmutation and energy and emotional healing is absolute foundation to having a high vibrational frequency, and also having a really fast moving vortex. Okay, your toroidal field moves very fast when you learn how to process all ranges of emotions through the body. So there's no shortcuts. You can't just ignore parts of those emotions. You created those experiences so that you can process them through the body. You can imagine yourself as this master of frequency, as passing through the three-dimensional realm. The invitation is that it's almost like an instrument. You fine tune all the notes, all the different, combinations of sounds that then cultivate your frequency. And another part is that every emotion that you are meeting in these in these visits, in this revisiting of these memories and these emotions, you are also activating healing abilities in yourself. You're also aligning yourself with your purpose, because it can be that from one memory of a traumatic experience, it opens up and downloads and unlocks higher vibrational information for you. Okay, so I've seen it many times, that when you begin to expand, let's say, and why is this? The reason why this happens, it's quite interesting. If the person that you're entangled with in that young age is a woman, for example, it is reflecting to you back how you have integrated the divine feminine in you, whether you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter. If it was your mother, if it was your aunt, your grandma, whoever it was, a classmate that was a female, it has created profound perceptions of how the divine feminine is expressing, and you've integrated that into yourself. Okay, so it can be that this is a very common one. Women become resentful of men, and men become resentful of women, for example, and that root core emotion can be seated in a classroom in kindergarten, where a teacher was severely dominant and scary and intimidating to a child. And so forever, the entire life, the child has. And so what is intimidating about that? It's not only to the external feminine, it's to their internal feminine. So what happens? They block off their intuition. They don't want to feel emotions. They don't want to tap into more subtle energies in their body. So that really can block a person from experiencing an entire range of aspects of themselves. Okay, and the same with the masculine. They can become paralyzed. They feel like they can't move forward in their life. They have no potential. They feel like they have no ability to do anything, to gain, to move in their life, to create, to manifest. And so, we embody these things very deeply. So energetically, what does that look like? It affects either the right side of the left side of the body. Okay. So another layer is that the cords that you have connecting to your body to the abuser or to this memory are going to be on the side of the body that you've most blocked the energy flow. Okay, so for those of you that are healers, when you see your patients and you start to see all their injuries and problems are all on the right side, now you can kind of begin to understand some of the programs that are there, okay, and where they are seated. So these are looking at the psychological, bioelectrical, biochemical, physical aspects of this kind of traumatic point. You can't get around it. It's in your body. It's programmed into every layer of you. So in the alchemical process, to alchemize that emotion would be to transmute it from that low emotion into a higher by helping your inner child, that child in that moment, understand what, bringing it back into harmonic order, bringing that experience, informing the child on what is possible in that moment and who they really are, without being blinded by the perceptions that are being projected by the other, right? And also perceptions that they've created in that moment with themselves. So on the etheric body, the moment that we start to alchemize, let's say in that moment you felt terror, and now you are able to feel compassion because you see that the parent never had affection in their life and so couldn't hold you in that moment when you were afraid. The idea, the compassion is the key. Compassion is one of the most powerful alchemizing energy frequencies that we have in the field. And it's very hard for people to feel compassion because the ego part wants to self-preserve. The ego part wants to survive. And we are programmed at the core that if we are compassionate, we will not survive. So this is something that we are changing now as we move into period 9, where there is a healing and a rebirth of the divine feminine. It is the healing of that compassion. To learn to be truly compassionate is the embodiment of unconditional love. People hear the word unconditional love and we equate that to some, kind of just new age concept that is just a fantasy. But unconditional love is an entire restructuring of your field. It's the ability to come in and move your toroidal vortex fluidly without obstruction because you are in a state of love with all things around you. And that's when the body embodies optimum health, longevity, abilities, all of these things. That is the activation of your DNA, which is happening at the very core. And so when you begin to do this work, let me be more concise with his question in terms of what he's asking is, so when we do that work, are we imposing on the free will of the other person? Okay. And so in this case, the answer is no. When you see the other and you begin to understand what it is they needed, in the field, in the higher level, when we're working with them, we are working with the fractal of themselves that has been created in that experience. Okay. And the fractal of themselves, because a lot of times in healing, we break the karmic contract. So as soon as we find out what is that program, so let's say the program is self-abandonment that's being shared there. Okay. So when you break that karmic contract, it immediately cuts the cords between you and them. You're cutting the cord, you're shifting the frequency. And that person will feel that. They will feel that. And how I know this for a fact, of course, I can see energetically, but it goes even deeper. I have mothers that have been estranged for 20 years call my client the next day and say, hey, you came to my mind. I just want to talk to you. You want to talk? Okay, so that's how powerful this work can be. And so you're working in the higher level. And that's why I always tell people, if you have very severe traumas, you want to work on the highest level, because when you work with energy, you're not imposing on the will of the other. You're only working with you, with yourself. And the whole point is that you're calling back your life force into the body, because most of our healing, most of our illnesses, most of our disconnect and confusion is because we are dispersed. We are fractalized. We don't know. We don't know what's up, what's down. We're confused. We cannot recognize even harmonic order. We don't know what's right and wrong. All we know is that we're angry, we're afraid, and we're disconnected. And so that when someone strongly feels that way, immediately you can understand they're deeply fragmented and disconnected from the body. Okay, so what happens essentially is that as you break the contracts and you cut cords, you're going to call back your life force into the body. We don't realize how much of our own life force is left behind in these fractalized aspects of ourselves. Okay, and the leaving behind and the fractalizing of your energy body. So basically unconscious parts of you. Anytime you are unconscious, you are fractalizing yourself. So just think about yesterday. How many times were you unconscious? Okay. If you were to gather your energy from all of those moments in the day yesterday, you're to call back your life force into the body, immediately you would feel less tired, you will feel regenerated, you will feel more grounded, you will feel more connected to your body. Okay, but how many of us have gone years without collecting our energy? Okay, so this is the source of that centrifugal state of energy, right? Everything is depleting out of the body. All the energy is just out of the body. Again, we're not holding it in the body. And so when someone is confused, their energy is deeply entangled. Along with your energy are cords. So we are to do energetic hygiene, essentially every day is absolutely essential. And I advise that you do it morning and night. Okay, because in the morning, you're cutting cords with everything that you may have traveled interdimensionally. And at night, you're cutting cords with everything you've interacted with during the day. So in the higher level, we can actually heal ourselves and we can also heal others by doing this work. And when I say heal others, this is what I'm talking about, that you break the karmic contracts. It's almost as if when we are unconscious all our lives of the trauma that we're holding, we hold a lot of anger towards people in the past experiences. We hold a lot of resentment. We hold a lot of, so many emotions. And what happens when you start unpacking the layers of that, you discover a different perception. In my life, for example, when I was young, I had this belief system that I never had any love, or I never was loved by anyone. But when I revisited all of those belief systems, I actually found so much love everywhere that I was blind to because I was conditioned to look for fear, look for whatever it is I was perceiving other than love. Why? Because I wasn't familiar with love. And so the most of us, we are not familiar with love because love is not the romantic love that we see in films or that were demonstrated in this family structures. So, it's almost as if all humans are blinded from really understanding what love is. We have no example of that. And so we have to teach ourselves. One of the most important part of this alchemical process is relearning or literally educating yourself on higher range vibrational frequencies. Okay, compassion, peace, love, care. These very like harmony, these very deep, profound emotions that are really the interconnecting web that connect you to the whole field. And you can't understand oneness, you cannot understand compassion, you cannot understand unconditional love until you begin to work on that separation that you have in the depths of your subconscious mind. So that's the work. That's the work. That's what all Jesus talked about, Buddha, all the highest level ascended masters have all gone through that process. And it's so important because what you find on the other end of that is that you are able to hold and sustain vibrational emotions much larger. You see, heavy emotions, they're very self-destructive. All of these emotions that you guys are experts in, fear, anger, these emotions that we've been taught we are experts in. But in the higher range of emotions, we have to rewire the brain. We have to teach the chemistry in the body because the majority of us were addicted to these lower range emotional states. Why? Because we're wired for survival. But as we enter into the new human is the one, okay, that is wired to embody love. And that requires higher bounds of frequency, higher conductivity in the body. Your toroidal field can move faster, which is more in harmony with the frequencies of this universe at this time. Okay, so There's no right or wrong in any experiences that we've had. All of them are extremely valuable and important for us. So in the field, this is how we begin to heal alchemically. When you begin to become aware of your ancestral lineage and the suffering and pain that they went through, you release it and you call back your life force. Now, here's another thing that I want to mention about ancestral work. You might think that when you think of great, great, great grandma, you're talking about someone totally separate from you, but they are you. They are you. You've lived that life and you have that memory in your body, literally encoded in your DNA. You have it encoded biochemically, memorized in the muscle system and how you hold muscle programming and memory. Okay. And so it's interesting how science is catching up and biology is catching up. They just posted an article about how we sustain in utero memories. They literally have now proven that there's an entire bioelectrical field of memory system in utero. So the child is holding all the memories of everything that they've experienced in utero and before. Okay, and we've known this in this field. We've known this intuitively and working in the field with all this information for a long time. But it is exciting that finally they are bridging that gap. And so what that means is that the masses need to understand the information that is available to them. More of us need to do in utero healing work. Okay. Now, let's go to the ancestral aspect. You are every single one of your ancestors. You've lived those lives. As a matter of fact, in a lot of incarnation memories in hypnotherapy, when I take people to past life regressions, they go back to the lifetime where they were their great grandma and they were living out that life and they tap into that life. Okay. So we are not separate in extremely deep ways. So when you're doing healing work, you're healing yourself. And so when we talk about free will, we are repeating and incarnating. The free will is the essence, the energy that has moved through different bodies, repeating same programs. The free will is to recognize the programs and end them in this life. That is the free will, and that is the alchemy, and that is the healing. Because when you do that, you rewire this morphogenetic field that is holding the memories of all these experiences and traumas that you're holding within the field. You've been repeating them for generations and generations. So this is how we essentially alchemize. And what happens eventually as you continue to go down, you're going to recover the memories of your current lifetime. So you're going to go all the way back into your in utero experiences, and then you're going to start accessing memories beyond that. How? Through your ancestors. Okay, so how it happened to me and how it happens to many people is that you begin to recover the memories of your ancestral bloodline. Let's go back to this example about the parent that can't give affection to the child because they've never had affection. That program goes down generations back into the wars, in the Inquisition, goes all the way back to the colonizations that happened in their country, in their land, where nobody felt like they could be safe or trust anyone, and they were enslaved. Okay, for generations enslaved. Okay, so now you're beginning to look at how this one emotion, this energy contraction, has been memorized in the bodies of all your ancestors down this memory, and you can trace it back. You don't need to have someone psychically tell you. You are the one that has to access that information through the emotions. Your most powerful psychic ability is to feel your emotions and to learn how to process emotions. The activation of intuition is the ability to learn to process emotions. If you don't know how to process emotions, you will have a very hard time refining your intuition. And you will also have a hard time understanding what is truly in harmonic order. So the processing of these emotions, they will guide you. All these little dots, let's say the little green dots, They're all where we have contracted love, where we have not been able to feel worthy enough to love. How many lifetimes? All these generations down these lifetimes. And guess what else you're going to find? That they will lead you to other species, other lifetimes where you've experienced and explored different forms, different perspectives, because you are everything, and all of you have had a plethora of lifetimes as different forms, different levels of consciousness, embodied, disembodied states of living life experiences, all of which are valuable to expand your perception of everything. The whole point is the expansion of your perception. If you are focused on having a myopic perception about something, you will always be blind to your potential. You will always be blind to your greatness, to how energy flows through the body, because all of that comes hand in hand. And so what happens when you start uncovering this memory is that the morphogenetic field starts to illuminate and hold higher bands of frequency. Okay, so when we talk about becoming more conductive, the more you are able to go in. So imagine these points of energy, they also organize in the morphogenetic field. They self-organize from lowest frequencies closer to the body to higher frequencies outside of the body. Okay, the further away from your physical body within your field. So don't think about time and space like a mile away or any of that. It's in the field, it's in the quantum field. So this is all in the field. Okay, so, but the more heavy the vibrational frequency, it starts to go into the crystallization process, which we talked about, I believe, last week. That the crystallization of an emotion is that it slowly begins to become so slow that it begins to crystallize into the physical body. And now it's turned into a pain in your shoulder. Now it's turned into cancer. Now it's turned into whatever illness you are dealing with. But the roots of that illness are scattered within your field, just like this. Imagine that the cancer are all these little pink dots. Okay? Cancer is in the body. So in energy work, and this happens in a lot of healers, in a lot of healing modalities, that you feel the energy in the body, you feel the contraction of energy in the body. It's this heavy block in their liver or in their heart, for example. And it just, you can see the energy is extending out in the body in different areas of the field. And you can see inside of the bodies of the body, of the energy body, it goes into the fourth layer of the body behind the body, or the 10th body. Okay, each point that you pick up in the field is going to be a memory, and you're going to find that's why DNA reprogramming is so powerful. We're accessing the root of that emotion, and that's why the healing can happen after that. Okay, and you can do the same in hypnotherapy. We just access it a different way. But that's all it is. Healing is moving blocked energy within your morphogenetic field, which is connected deeply to the emotional body. And so the removing of the stagnation of these access points of energies in the body is what expands your perception. The expansion of perception means that you're able to hold higher bands of frequency, which means that your overall vibrational signature is raising. Okay, so you could be repeating fear-based programs for generations and generations. Nobody has thought to not repeat them in your bloodline. So the majority of the people, when I start to look at their energy body of the family, their root chakra is super contracted. Okay, they have all kinds of complications and problems in the lower parts of the body. I mean, this is an entire science. It's an entire research thing you can study. But as you begin to heal the body of these emotional traumas, your signature begins to rise. Okay, this is where we now enter when we work with the crown chakra. Okay, so the 7th chakra is where your vibrational signature lives. Okay, So I can tell where you're at in your evolutionary state by looking at the color that you hold in your seventh chakra. If your seventh chakra is super not active and disconnected, you can pretty much see that the majority of the energy movement in the body is like just up here from the forehead down to the chest. It's all the vision is just very externalized. Usually this individual has no awareness of the back of their body, their bubble, there's no awareness. They have holes in their field completely. Okay, so the human that starts to activate the crown, because the crown takes all of the streams of information. It's the DNA of the earth and DNA of your body. DNA will produce your vibrational signature. It holds your vibrational signature. That's why epigenetics is the key to healing this, this energy system. So this DNA here that is being accessed in the crown, when you do healing work, shadow work, and start alchemizing some of those core emotions, this changes. So the reason why we use our intuition to access the vibrational frequency of our higher self is because we want to know our highest potential, our highest vibrational potential. And you can tell that by the energy that you're currently holding in the body. Okay, so when I read people on our energy healing and reading class, we really want to know where the majority of the energy is condensed, because that's what's blocking the activation of the higher self. So the idea is that we clean all the blockages in the energy field, clean all the blockages in the body, so that we can access the frequency of the higher self. Why? Because we must bring the essence of the body of that individual back into the body, so that the higher self can be embodied in the physical. Most of us, we are disconnected from the body. So what happens when you start putting your higher self here in the crown chakra is that you can clear karmic contracts. And I cannot stress enough how clearing karmic contracts will change your life. Because karmic contracts are all of those vibrational frequencies, all of those little dots that you have in your field that you haven't addressed, that you haven't sat with. You can clear them energetically and etherically. It doesn't bypass shadow work. Nothing will bypass that shadow work, because we are designed to be alchemists. We are literally experiencing the three-dimensional realm, which the structure of this construct is alchemy. So you got to learn alchemy. That's kind of your, it's basically mastering your physical body is to learn alchemy. And so if we are in the body holding all of these energy points, this is why I give you so many techniques and tools to use. They're really not techniques, they're tools, because technique is like, oh, here's a possible thing that can work. This is like looking at the energy body structure and then moving exactly what's there, because we all have an architecture. We all have a very defined architecture in our bodies. And it's not because I'm saying it, it's because it's the way that we are designed in this universe, in this multiverse. It's the pathway of life force. Life force has an intelligence, a self-organizing intelligence that goes beyond our comprehension. And so the activation of our life force essentially is just simply to remove the blocked pathways. Okay. And so we do that emotionally, energetically, etherically. So etherically, when you break karmic contracts, you are slowly chiseling all of these points of energy that you're holding in your energy body. Karmic contracts are basically grabbing one of these colors and beginning to eliminate that. Okay, as you see, the colors are spread out in many different timelines, many dimensional planes in your body. So what happens when people break karmic contracts on a daily basis? Your day will go better. Your day will be aligned in harmony. You will be able to access states of peace in that day. And it's a really powerful way to shift your vibrational frequency. Even the body will, if you're dealing with a lot of illness, especially those of you that are having chronic illnesses or diseases, it will alleviate the symptoms. And so this combined with shadow work is one of the most powerful things that you can do. And it's been practiced since the beginning of time. I did not invent this. This is something that has existed since the beginning of time. So our beautiful bodies, as we work with these contracts, we are working with the entanglement to others. That is the healing work we provide others, neutralizing the entanglement, because we hold captive our abusers in our energy field. We hold them captive when we don't forgive, because the forgiveness usually is towards the self that has to happen. It's not even towards the other. Sometimes it's very easy for us to forgive the other, but you cannot forgive yourself because you feel that you betrayed, or that you didn't have the tools, or that you felt helpless, whatever it might be. That's usually the tail end of the healing aspect. And then that is where you block yourself from love, because we're afraid. We're afraid of feeling love. We're afraid of coming into that childlike vulnerability where we have to return back into that innocence. We are all innocent. Every single human on this planet is innately innocent. They are an innocent being that wants love. But we mostly see our world as predators and people that abuse. And until we begin to shift our perception and teach us something different. Okay, so just being really clear, this doesn't mean you're going to put yourself in situations that are not in alignment with you. Okay, so that's why it's difficult to talk about these things, because sometimes we grab one thing and we run with it, but you can't pick and choose parts of this. You have to understand the whole thing. The whole thing is that in your healing process, you are cultivating discernment. You cultivate discernment by returning back to your body, by understanding what is true for you and what is ultimate truths. In the alchemical process, you are becoming aware of ultimate truths in comparison to the perceptions that you've created about experiences that you've had. Okay, so you might have a program running, mom doesn't love me. Okay, that might be an idea that you have. Or, oh, I can never find a partner that is loving, or I can never find support or trust, whatever it is that you're running in the back end there. You might have that belief, and you might have a ton of evidence. But when you compare them with the other side of things, let's say, mom, she got up at 6 a.m. She did a job she didn't want, just to pay the bills, just to put food on your table. She was in an abusive relationship and she needed support, financial help in order to get you to school. So there's many layers. And so you might only be looking at one part of that. So in this work, that's why the cultivation of non-judgment is important, not to let people go free without accountability, but for you to be able to adjust your perception into the highest truth possible for you. Okay. And so when you begin to look at the highest truth possible, you look at all perceptions, not just your own, not just the other, but the whole bigger picture. And that is where you begin to become free. You become free of entanglement. You become free of attachment. Your expectations begin to shift because you become honest about how really each human can hold space or not hold space. And that's something that is part of the spiritual maturity that's very hard for us, because it's very easy to play victim and to blame and to reallocate our responsibility to others. Okay. But the truth of this human body is that we are powerful co-creators. And one of the most disempowering elements of this construct is to believe that we have no power of ourselves. We have no power. We have no free will. We have no ability to choose to change. Okay. And so that is something that we are changing. And with that, etherically, is an entire restructuring of the energy body, which equates to the new human. Because in the old model of the human, in alignment with the old frequencies that we were learning through and experiencing through in the last few centuries, we went through many different ranges of frequencies in which our energy body was deeply weakened, deeply restored, deeply disconnected. We go through waves of that through the year, as I mentioned many times. Every year is an ascension process. Every month is an ascension process. Every week is an ascension process. And every day is an ascension process, because this universe is designed in fractal form. And so we are just moving through self-similar cycles continuously. So when you begin to recognize that and you take awareness of how your creative potential is either being used or depleted without your awareness, this is where your creativity begins to change. And so I mentioned about the wings, because what I discovered is that when I began to heal my current lifetime traumas and then went into my past lives, I mean, I went through thousands of past lives, thousands different past lives, but that sounds like you would spend a lifetime working on them. But you get to a point where you can very easily, now that you've done so much shadow work, you understand it's simply choosing between love and fear. It all trickles down to two main emotions you are simply learning through. With a plethora of experiences and all variations of potential people, variants of places, whatever, it all trickles down to these two emotions that you're simply learning to recognize, embody, experience, feel: fear and love. And so even in your millions of lifetimes, you are also learning that. So that's the information that's accessible to you in this dimensional plane. In this dimensional plane, this dualistic construct is teaching us to choose from creation, destruction, life, death, darkness, light. It's so in some ways, this level in the human experience can become very beautiful, can become simple, because you're either choosing disharmony or harmony continuously. And so when you begin to see that, you quickly alchemize all of the erroneous belief systems that were caused when your perception was in states of fear. You expand that perception into a perception of love, and it immediately changes the architecture of that fractal of yourself. It becomes free, because when it's full of fear emotions, at the DNA level, it literally becomes contracted. The energy is stuck. Okay, so that is the releasing of that completely. All of these translate into the etheric bodies. As you can see, we have the physical plane, go up to the etheric, to the soul plane, right, to the higher levels of our body. So we are essentially navigating this even in dream state. When you're accessing other lifetimes, you're living parallel to this one. So the more lucid you become, you begin to work in the quantum field. You travel to the past, you travel to the future. You're constantly moving in between many dimensions. So the toroidal structure of your body becomes stronger. And as you access many lifetimes, you expand into becoming awareness of yourself as the universe. Because you've experienced all different forms of existence, of experience. So in this lifetime, we become aware of that. We remember. The more bioelectrical you are, you become more bioelectrical, the more conductive you become. You become more conductive bioelectrically, the more you clean up your energy body and let the energy flow through you as you become all. And so you become love. That's what it means to become love. It doesn't mean to just, self-indulge or show affection to others. It means to become a unified field. So, that being said, thank you so much for that question. We, when we impose on other people's free will, it means that we project our belief systems onto the other. But as you can see in this construct, there's no place for that. It's like it's like it's like a little child playing an imaginary game with they don't even know all the potential variant imaginations they could use. It's a very small perception to want to impose one perception on someone else. Because as you can see, we are all. And so the imposition of free will, which is what parasitic beings do, when parasites, they need to survive, so they outsource their survival on another. They take they use them as feeding source. Okay, so we do that to ourselves. We become parasites to ourselves. We become parasites to others. And essentially, you just self-destruct in your energy body because energy isn't designed like that in this universe, at least to sustain in longevity. Okay, and at least not in a very creative in a way that is co-creative. It's creative. You're still creating, just that it's not moving in harmony with creation itself. Okay, but even though every single life experience plays a role in the bigger picture, that's why there is no condemnation, no judgment, none of that exists. All of those emotions are so small for this concept. They're so primitive. There's just no place for them, because when you look at nature, everything is in harmonic order. Everything has a role, everything has a place, and everything is doing exactly what it needs to do. Even if it's self-destructive for a while, that is exactly what that little aspect needs in order to find, its truth, its regenerative, its awareness. So the invitation and the purpose of this is that you become free. You become more free. You become more free in your creation, in your expression, and move out of that victim mindset of any kind. Because this is why we say there are no victims in this universe. Because, as you can see, we are simply moving through these levels of creation. And as you come more into unity consciousness, you just come into a state of pure knowing, pure consciousness, pure light, being, just simply being. And you can move through these ranges. Okay. So let's jump into the meditation. I want you to get really nice and comfortable. Breathe deeply. Breathing deeply. Come back into your body. Take all your awareness back to your body. Go ahead and visualize the center of the earth. You're going to create an energetic cord that connects you down to the center core of the planet. Allow yourself to feel the rotation of the earth. Expanding your awareness to the love that surrounds you in this space of the earth. This earth is pure love. Go ahead and visualize a sphere that completely surrounds your body. Making it completely solid without any openings. Calling back your life force back into your body. We're going to focus on the root chakra at the base of the spine, shrinking the root chakra down to the size of a dime. The sacral, shrinking the sacral down to the size of a dime. Shrinking solar down to the size of a dime. Expanding the heart. Expanding the throat. Expanding the third eye. Going up into the crown, expanding the crown. Put your creative color up into the crown. You're going to bring a very healing frequency from the earth. You're going to pull it up through your feet. Absorb this energy up through your feet as if you have straws that are pulling that energy up. From source, pull down a powerful wave of gold cosmic energy that comes down through the crown of your head, combining with the green earth energy or healing energy, whatever color feels healing for you. So you're combining gold cosmic energy with your healing energy. You're going to take 10% back down to the center of the earth. 80% up your spine from the crown of your head, coating the outside of your bubble. And you're going to take that final 10% and absorb it into the body, into every cell of the body, allowing your body to feel love, infusing that love into every cell of your body. Fill every cell of your body with love. Allow yourself to sustain that love in your body. And I want you to begin to observe yourself over the past 24 hours, taking a look at the strongest emotion that came up for you in the past 24 hours. See that now? As you begin to observe the strongest emotion, go ahead and feel your body. Be present with that emotion. Observe what part of your body tenses up when you feel this emotion in your body. And name out the emotions that come up. Notice which one is the strongest of these emotions. And just observe, when was the last time that you felt that emotion? Take a look. And I want you to take yourself back to the very first time that you felt that emotion in your life. Take a moment to observe this experience. Take a look at yourself. What are you feeling in that moment? Go ahead and notice the strongest of these emotions. And you're going to ask yourself, what is it that you need in order to not feel this emotion in your body? What do you need in order to not feel that way? Just observe your surroundings and notice if your surroundings can offer you with those needs, can meet those needs for you. Anyone in your surrounding, can they meet your needs? Begin to observe why that is, why they cannot meet the needs, why, if at all, they are not able to meet the needs. And just notice how many generations that is being repeated, that behavior. Let yourself observe yourself. How many times have you repeated this program in your own life, this belief system? Just notice the effect that that has on you, that has had on your body, on your mind, on your emotions, on your potential. Just observe and ask yourself, what do you need in order to no longer repeat this program in your life, this belief system? So begin to observe what you need, fulfill yourself with that need, provide yourself everything that you need in that moment to alchemize this emotion. Notice how you change when you provide yourself exactly what you need. As you integrate all the fractals of yourself, allow yourself to see all the parts of yourself merging into one self. Cut cords, this past experience, calling back your life force into your body, letting go of what no longer serves you. And you're going to begin to see a room full of karmic contracts. I want you to shine your crown light on top of those karmic contracts and remove them. Fill the room with your creative color. Clear your energy body. Visualize cleaning all the layers of your body. Very good. And as you allow yourself to begin to work on the root chakra at the base of the spine, open the root chakra back into a balanced state. Back to your sacral. Open up your solar plexus back into a balanced state. Bring your heart back into a balanced state, throat into a balanced state, third eye. You're going to go up into the crown. Activate the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Above you is a powerful white light of source. As you let that white light of source connect down into your body, down into the center of the earth, Go ahead and activate the chakras underneath your body, underneath your feet. As you allow yourself to see the bubble around your body being completely whole, allow yourself to come back into the room and open your eyes. Amazing. Sustain your awareness of your energy body, grounding down to the body. You guys did amazing. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. It was such an honor to share with you. And I just want to thank you so much for participating and doing the meditation with me. If you guys have any questions, definitely put them in the chat below in capital letters. I'm going to go into the chat here. Thank you so much, Ellen, for that very generous super chat. I am so grateful to you. Victoria Mayers, love you. Thank you so much for that. Victoria Mayers is amazing. She's doing some really deep, deep healing work. And she asks, can you speak on the retroactive effect of our decisions? For example, I booked a DNA reprogramming with you and have had many breakthroughs, almost as if the healing from future timelines is being experienced now. Yeah, so I mean, it's basically the same thing we were talking today. As you can see, we are travelers in the field, in the quantum field. We can travel to the future or to the past. The whole point is that you gather all the parts of you, and you are everything. So essentially, you are, in a sense, gathering your energy, but you're also expanding your perception to the awareness that you are all. And I think that the every single decision has a cause and effect. You know, every single one is something that we are moving and co-creating consciously. So this is something that we are very proactively participating. And really important is to understand the accountability, take accountability and take responsibility for the things that you're creating, and really looking at yourself and understanding the intention behind the things that we're doing, because that's where you're going to actually find the truth, the core, the really important message that you need to see. And if you are aware of that, there won't be surprises, right? Because most of the time we're surprised when we don't pay attention, when we're asleep, we fall back asleep. We act and then we fall back asleep, and then we act, we fall back asleep. So that kind of disconnect really just, we end up being surprised about the outcome of things. And it's different than manifestation of synchronicities, for example. There's a pleasant surprise, right? That you experience a synchronicity and it's magical. It seems unbelievable. But then there's shock, right? That you're shocked when you do something and you're like, oh, I didn't expect that. But in reality, if you really took a look at your intentions, you would have really understood why you had that outcome or why you had that experience. So I think that, everything is in the 0 point. The cultivation of the 0 point is a state of non-judgmental awareness for the reason so that you can see things as they really are, opposed to having filters of perception that can change, the reality of what you're really experiencing, or the way you perceive the reality of things you're experiencing. So that's really important. And so we are constantly changing. But remember that at any time you can change your life. You can change your life in the moment. You can just make a different decision and have a completely different timeline if you change your intention behind things. If your intention is the same as the original that brought you into that situation, you might leave that situation, but you might come into the exact same experience next. So that is really, really important. And the real creation of our reality is the subconscious. Okay, so that's where we really have to take a look at what we're doing there. Diane Lee Wei, thank you so much for your super chat. You're so kind. Much love to you. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. It's such a joy to have you here. Your questions in capital letters, please. What can be done to block pattern of falling back into addictions and habits that freeze our growth, even after we have been clear and progressing with sudden setbacks to old self-sabotage? This is where self-love plays the role. This is where self-love is what's missing, because and compassion, because you might be doing all the right things to get you there, but if you don't allow yourself to feel forgiveness and compassion towards yourself, you're always going to betray yourself. You have to think of yourself, you're suffering. So to fall back onto survival mechanisms is to suffer. And so you want to come back into a state of compassion for yourself, and really take accountability for what you're doing to yourself every time you repeat that pattern. A lot of times we become desensitized from our creations. We don't really realize. And so that's a really important part. Anyway, guys, it was such a joy to be here. Thank you so much for being with me, and I really can't wait to see you next time. All my love. Bye.